Chicago Bears Central. We're going to be breaking down the introductory press conference from Shane Waldron and Eric Washington. We're going to get into all that and more. First, we got to play that intro.
Tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? So we got the introductory press conferences for Eric Washington and offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, and this was insightful, right? I won't say anything breaking came out of it or anything surprising or shocking or anything like that, but I will say, the fact that Matt Eberflus came out first and kind of explained that, the timeline they gave themselves of wanting to hire offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and then talking about how they interviewed a couple of guys who ended up still being on the staff for that offensive coordinator position, kind of just let us know the mindset and how they really went into this offseason. And their first line of business was to find their offensive and defensive coordinators, as it should be, right? They did an extensive search. Matt Eberflus saying that it was important to have guys come out and interview with them in person. And in a modern day where a lot of people don't come out and fly out to interview in person, a lot of things done digitally and stuff like that. It's good to have that you had people to come in. You got to get a feel for those people in person, and they got to see the building and things like that. I know that's a little bit rah-rah, right? That's just a little bit of pride thing for your team, but it is really good to see that the way that they went about this was really an old school method of interviewing your candidates for your coaching positions. And they very happy. It seems like Matt Eberflus feels very confident in the staff that he built. That's not to say he didn't feel confident about the last one. That's a story for another day. But it really does seem like Matt Eberflus was extremely confident in this staff that they built and how they decided to go out and fit these pieces together. And that's a really good thing. You want to see that as you're trying to build this staff that's going to, come out and hopefully work your team into a better position where you're trying to be that playoff team and things like that. It's important to build out that staff and have those people in place. And Shane Waldron and Eric Washington have two extremely important jobs for the Chicago Bears coming up, especially, Eric Washington. He had his press conference first. Stev0's in the building. What's going on, Stev0?
What's the word? Sorry for my tardiness.
You good, bro. You good, man. So I was just about to get into, I haven't really gotten into anything too heavy yet. Getting into Eric Washington and his portion of the interview. He was asked very early on about the play calling duties. And he basically said that Matt Eberflus is a great play caller, that he will be assisting in both the planning of that and also during the game. But Matt Eberflus will be the one calling the plays. They asked if there was like a plan in place, a succession plan for him to eventually take over play calling duties. Doesn't seem like that's there yet, but he will have his hands all completely out in the game planning and adjustments that the team does make throughout the game, which your defensive coordinator should have. But I really like the things that Eric Washington laid out, the expectations that it seemed like he was going to set. You can tell that he's a former Bear, right? A former Bear coach as well. That he is used to that. How'd you feel about Eric Washington's portion of the press conference?
It was great. That was the first thing I wanted to know was the play calling situation. And I just felt like with everything that we seen last season, the whole complete change that we seen, the whole attitude, somewhat of the scheme and the defense, I knew like you don't need to move something that ain't broken. You don't need to touch it. So if Matt Eberflus is the one of the main reason why the ship went when the defense was rolling, you keep him at play calling, and that's what they should do. He was one of the big reasons why we got Sweat. When Sweat got it, this guy got here with somebody he requested that he said would be someone he needed for this defense to work. That's when the turnover started. That's when everything else started. So when you start doing that, it builds up more confidence in where that you don't want nobody else calling the defense, because based off what we seen from day one, since we seen you take over the job, you've done your job. And another thing that I like that he said was they're constantly going to be talking. They said they're constantly going to be talking on the sidelines, and I feel like that was a lot of things that I wasn't seeing. There was times we'd see them shots over to the sideline. You're not seeing them talking to the DC. One is on one side. It was like this. One was on down there, like our DC. I forget his name, but he was down there. Flus was in the middle, and Gatsby's up top. Usually, you want to be close because you're going to be talking about. He said one of the key things he said was a quote was he wants to have everybody, not just the DC, not just the coaches, not the defense. He want everybody to know exactly what we need, what adjustments that we seeing, and what we got to do to see them as just on work. And that's what I wanted to hear. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, because there's sometimes we see like, okay, we see what they're doing, but it felt like everybody not on the same accord. A lot of those late drives, we'll see them backing up, but there's no pressure. You got to do something. So if they're just constantly dumping off, that shows me a lack of communication on the defensive side and the team as a whole. So the fact that we add that and more communication is something we desperately needed.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I love also that he said we're going to stop the run, right? Because that, like, I love that he said that, like, we're going to make teams one dimensional. That's something that we said we didn't really do, like, consistently. We saw spurts of it, but this defense always seemed like it was kind of adjusting to what the offense did. You want to take away from what the offense is trying to do, and you know, like I said, Eric Washington's mentality is that I want my defensive coordinator to have. You have this defense that's growing. I have a video coming out later. Shout out to the daily episode of like the biggest position groups and how the Bears are finally building a defensive identity for the first time in like 5+ years. And Eric Washington seems to be a coach that's going to get the most out of that. And that's what he's done. He does have high expectations. The defensive line is his specialty, and he likes to keep that defensive line fresh. They're going to do that. Like, everything that Eric Washington said in this press conference was exactly what I personally needed to hear from him to show he has the right mentality to collab, work with both the offensive coordinator and Matt Eberflus, and the expectations of this defense just went up. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. I think that's a lot of things we're going to be targeting is the D line in this draft and possibly in the free agency. So it's only shooting up from one. I'm starting to think I could predict that we could possibly be a top 5 defense by next year. That's just just an early prediction. You know, of course we got to see it out. We got to see who we gonna pick, but we was trending towards that direction regardless of that. So hey, you go when it comes to both one side of this ball that we got the utmost confidence in this team is the defensive side of the ball.
That's for sure. That's for sure. That's absolutely fact. So Eric Washington coming in. I think I like the balance. We know Matt Eberflus is a good guy, right? Eric Washington is going to have that edge, and that balance I think is going to be good for especially the young players on the defensive side of this ball. And we're probably going to be adding a couple of young players at key position as well. And what Eric Washington is going to do for the development of like a George Pickens and I'm sorry, wait, Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens. I don't know why I always want to mix their names. It's going to be important for that. Yeah, it's going to be important for that. Yeah. So yeah, but Shane Waldron, man. Shane Waldron coming in talking about. I love how he played the Justin and college quarterback questions greatly. I love the way that he did that. Basically saying, hey, the purpose of what we're doing here is that we feel that anybody can have. We're trying to build a system that anybody can have success in, that we can get the most out of these players. I love the way that he did that, because had he not answered that question right, and this isn't on him, right? But had he answered that question and left a little bit too much room one way or another, the media would have ran with it. I love the mindset that he has. I love the fact that he talked about how many people on the staff he's worked with previously, how they're all going to be on the same staff. What did you think about the Shane Waldron portion of the interview?
He looked like I mean, of course he's been doing this a while, but it looked like he's been doing this for years. Like he almost looked like a former head coach and how he was able to deal with the media. Like it's not an easy job to do, to be able to talk, have a certain charisma about yourself. Like, he wasn't boring. That was one thing I noticed about you, because a lot of things you got to be able to talk. So I can see him. I can see why Gino and other people believe in him, because he has a certain characteristic about himself that's not only like easy going, but you could tell he really loves what he's doing. That was one of the first things I liked. But one of the first things I noticed, they kept on saying that they interviewed him twice. And usually that's a common thing. Like, the more interviews you get, the more likely they want to know about you and figure things out. And the way he sounded, I knew he broke it down X's and O's wise in those both 2 days of talking, because I know based off of the system he did in Seattle, it's not too much different what we're gonna be running here. So he even kind of alluded to it. He's like, I'm really just here to fix up a few things. I'm really the run game is gonna be pretty much similar. He said Simo got a promotion. Well, Eberflus said that Simo got the promotion as the run game coordinator a little bit. So he's coming in to fix the passing to me. and that's what I've always been. I thought he would be doing. So that was one thing I liked about it. And it was his. Somebody asked him like, "What was your pitch? Like, what was your pitch to get others?" And he
Yeah.
just talked about first. He just talked about it's very important to be able to build out a whole roster of coaches that's a solid core, and that's what was really important. He was like, I think even Eberflus alluded to it at the beginning, like they wanted to get their DC and OC and like in the around the same time, and it didn't work that way. Like it just took time, and they did it the way it was, and they said they're missing one more coach, and they're done. So
Yeah, it was
he's good.
assistant defensive line coach.
Yeah,
I can't remember what he said.
yeah, assistant defensive line coach.
Okay.
That's what they was missing. He said the dude that left went to Tennessee, I want to say, or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, he talked about like how he was comfortable, and it was all about the relationships that he had. He brought one of his coaches that he had a great relationship and rapport in LA, and the rest was Seahawks. And not only did just because they were Seahawks, he also felt like what whoever was coming here and who was here, they will work perfectly with the scheme and the roster that they had. So it shows why he was probably one of the top three most valued OCs in the market at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, you under like the fact that we got Thomas Brown and Shane Waldron, right? Some people would have expected both of those guys to wind up in offensive coordinator positions in different places. You know, Thomas
Mhm.
Brown didn't have the best success because of him and the head coach not kind of seeing eye to eye in Carolina. But we got two really good guys that both have their own, what expectations they bring with them as
Yeah,
far as offensive minded guys, but they come from the same system, they come from the same background. And I think it's going to be important for the Bears to have that synergy. They have people that they can go to on the offensive side of the ball. Most of these coaches on the offensive side of the ball have either been offensive coordinators, been play callers, or a combination of the both. So you have guys that are going to be able to own their position groups and help the development of each one of these players big time. So
yeah. I forget who is it. Corey. I think his name's Corey. I forget what coaching, what is his job particular is, but he mentioned like it's going to help in so many ways because he actually plays safety in the NFL, and he said the way he can see the game is going to help them tremendously in ways, and it showed over there in Seattle. So like, once I see the name Shea Waldron, I was already confident, but I'm even more confident seeing who he brought along with him.
yeah, he filled out a great staff, and that's the signs of really improving things. We know we need drastic improvements on that offensive side of the ball. You brought in an offensive coordinator to lead that team that has had success with a lot of different types of quarterbacks. He has flaws, of course, as an offensive coordinator, but I think he's brought in people on that staff that are going to help shore that up, and we're gonna have a really the game plan. I'm not worried about anymore, right? With
Mhm.
Getsy, you came in and you said, hey, I don't know if he's going to game plan correctly. We're not worried about the game planning anymore. Now it's focused on the execution, and that's what I like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what Steely E said, he did say we gonna have to look at the tape. I was like, oh Lord, I got a flashback when he said that. I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
one thing I need all these coaches coming in. You need to do your homework of the do's and don'ts to what not to say. We don't want to hear continuity. We don't want to hear. We got to look at the tape. We don't want like we had a good week of practice after you got smacked. We don't want to hear that. Like, you certain things we need to hear. I don't want to hear that. It's certain things I just do not want to hear.
They need to
Hit
put a shut
principles.
collar on Matt Eberflus, and when he says certain words, just buzz his ass. So you just shut the
Right.
fuck up. Just
Right. Just you don't think he got that J Color tick.
exactly. Like, what the
Bro,
fuck? What the hell just
what's
happened?
wrong? But he need I hope I hope the Bears really invest in him. Or maybe Shane will rub off on him because Shane can handle the media way better than Eberflus can. So hopefully that rubs off on him. But at least give him PR people to help because he still sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I see people in the chat saying, "Oh, well, I think this means Fields is gone. This means Fields is staying." Listen, we've talked about this with you guys, man. We've gone over this in detail. Stop it. Stop it. There's nothing that he said in there that gives it because he also said that he's talked to Justin. He also said glowing things about Justin Fields. So let's just let this thing play out. Per what we've heard is that the Bears plan on making a decision on their quarterback situation within the next couple of weeks. Let's see if we know about it.
All right. Yeah, it's simply like that. Like we both don't know it is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
just let it happen. It's coming. Like, we're probably gonna know in the next coming month. So, like, let it happen. Stop acting like you know, and stop acting like you gotta fucking choose a side. You should be on one side, and it should say Chicago Bears with the C on it. That's what side you should be on, not a quarterback side. If you love Justin and we trade Justin, you should have no confidence. You should have all the confidence in the world. He gonna be wrong wherever he go. And if we feel like we could bring in whoever, we should be capable of, and be accepting that Poles know what he doing.
And that's what it comes down to. We can't trust in Ryan Poles. And like I said before, it's not just about him making the decision that we want him to do. And I've had to say that, but for myself, like, it's about making the right decision. And we won't know that when the decision gets made. I'm sorry, I hate to tell y'all, if they trade Justin Fields or if they trade the number 1 pick, we won't know for 100% fact if that was the right decision for at least a season or two. And let's see where it goes. That's it.
As simple as that, bro.
Hey, y'all gotta stop tripping, man. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand. Like I said before, and I always go to this comparison. I loved Roquan Smith. I was all on the side of paying Roquan Smith. Guess what? They didn't pay the motherfucker, but they did damn good in getting Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards in place of him. You ain't heard me. I ain't spent the whole season said, "Oh my God, what if they had Roquan?" No, I'm a Bears fan. I want to see the people that are here do good. That's it, man. That's it.
As simple as that. Like,
it's
really trust Poles. If you say trust Poles, trust Poles.
Yeah. That's it. Any last thoughts coming out of this press conference, Steve, on the offense or defensive side?
Like I said, number 1 place for all news, Bears.
You already know. You already know. Daily episodes uploaded, so y'all have that in a second. I wanted to hold off on that till after this because I didn't want it to mess up the stream. So y'all be getting y'all daily episode here within the next 20 minutes or so. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure y'all check out Steve-O at Steve-O Speaks. You can follow the podcast at Shy Bears Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, Chicago Bears Central gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, number to do so, 773-242-9336. With the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. Peace, y'all.